Hello and welcome to another Marketing Sherpa webinar. Today we are going to be talking about that uber hot topic, mobile email marketing. Joining me today, I have Pamela Marquis, the Senior Director of Marketing from MECLab. She flew all the way in from San Diego to our home base right here in Jacksonville Beach. Thanks for joining us, Pamela.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be here.
So Pamela did a great case study with Ritz-Carlton Destination Club. And she interviewed them in Email Summit, and that's what she's going to be sharing with you today. Very impressive. By the way, if you're not familiar with Marketing Sherpa, that's the kind of things we do. We have these summits where, for example, at Optimization Summit coming up in Boston in May, Pamela will be interviewing, we have Boston Globe and we have CNET. It's very exciting. So Pamela's got that background. She did this case study with Ritz-Carlton Destination Club. She's right about to share with you. And also, she used to work for Bell Mobility, which if you have not heard of it, that is the biggest mobile provider in Canada, I believe.
One of them, yes, definitely. And I worked there for almost 7 years in marketing there, so have the mobile background and passionate about this channel. So really excited to share this today.
Excellent. If you're not familiar with Canada, that is another country in North America.
Oh, whatever for you.
So also, we'd like to hear what you have to say. Right there at the bottom of your screen, you can see hashtag Sherpa Webinar. That's our chance through Twitter to interact with you, hear your questions, hear what has worked for mobile email marketing for you. But first, to set up what Pamela's going to talk about, let's take a look at some research. We have some research right here from the Mobile Marketing Benchmark Report that Marketing Sherpa has put out. And let's look at what marketers have said is effective. Only 2% say mobile email is not effective. That's why we're going to be talking about that today. Let's take a look at some other research very quick. Mobile marketing tactics currently in use. The mobile website, 18%, is at the top. Mobile landing pages, which we're also going to talk about today, an integral part of mobile email, 12%, also highly used. And we also look at the tactics that marketers are planning to implement in the next 6 months. Again, mobile websites right at the top. Mobile landing pages are right up there. We hope you get some good ideas from this Sherpa webinar. And if you haven't been on one of these before, this is how it's going to work. In our last webinar, we asked you, we said, do you want us to go fast, give you lots of different advice, or do you want us to go slow and take a more considered approach? And you said fast. 90% of people said fast. So get ready. Thank you. We learned from you all the time. With that, I'm going to turn over to Pamela, and she's going to go through in the next 30 minutes lots of different great ideas for helping improve your mobile email efforts.
Tons of ideas, and that's really the goal here, is to give you transferable principles. You can take these steps. We've got creative here for you to look at and really apply them to what you're doing, regardless of your industry or anything else that may not be exactly the same as this case study. So really what I want to dig into is first, okay, this case study came about because there was a problem. The mobile email experience was just really not working for this team. So, you know, if you consider your own mobile efforts, we see these kinds of examples all the time. Just pulled a few examples. This one here, terrible little HTML-based Times New Roman, awful experience there. This one, you're very welcome to be at this landing page. So these are the kind of things we see all the time, and our users, they see this and they cringe. And surprisingly, you know, mobile's been around for a while, but there's still a lot of this happening. This is one of my favorites. It's actually a redirect problem with a iPhone fixing website, so that's pretty funny there. And this one is definitely my favorite. If you have Flash, please wait. If you don't have Flash, you are waiting in vain. So some really great examples. We see them all the time, but this team particularly was really focused on using mobile not as something that was damaging, which it was when they looked at their what their experience was for their users, but really recognizing that it is a highly effective traffic that drives ROI when you do it right. So to dig right into it, as Dan mentioned, it was the Ritz-Carlton Destination Club team that was working on this, the marketing team. And what that is, they have a members-only luxury vacation club, and this is membership-based. They have 70 locations around the world. And this is a very highly affluent audience, very much early adopters, the first people to buy iPads, iPhones. My understanding is the membership is about $250,000, so it's, you know, a very unique audience. The challenge with this was that they had landing pages from email that were not optimized for mobile. And you know, it seems like it's been around for a while, but you'd be surprised how many teams are struggling with this, how many companies that, you know, you click on the link and it's really a terrible experience. And it doesn't matter how big your budgets are, it's a tough thing. So in this case in particular, they had really heavy Flash content. It's such an experiential space to be in, hospitality, that they have a lot of really heavy pages, but they didn't have the resources available to initiate, you know, what seems like a major mobile project. So what they did is decide to launch a really basic pilot. And I say pilot, but that's almost a big word for what they launched, and they really broke it down and made it easy. So we asked them to share with us how they really approached this and make this transferable for you guys. So the way that they did it was really with 4 key steps. And they seem pretty intuitive, but you can take these and apply them to really anything, mobile or not. But it's really about understanding your audience, starting with a really basic mobile pilot, something that doesn't require a lot of work, and then using that to quickly get results, make the case for yourselves internally, maybe with company leadership, and then really build and enhance, constantly work. This is a channel that's always changing, and I always want to be doing that optimization and testing. So yeah, let's dig right into this first step, which is understanding your mobile audience, which is what marketers should really always be considering. Really audience-focused, customer-centric strategy planning here. So your audience is obviously unique. We all don't have literally the luxurious audience that is the Ritz-Carlton Destination Club. They particularly looked at their email channel traffic at this time when they kicked off this project and found only 2.8% was mobile at the time, which doesn't seem like that much. But when they really kind of dug into the details, they found that a whopping 90% of that was directly going to the iPhone. So that made it pretty clear how their team was, or their audience rather, was engaging with their email. And it made it clear where to spend their limited energies, which is to focus on a specific device. And that's just one approach, but that to them was an easy way in. So consider how you can do that. So they started with a very basic mobile pilot, as I mentioned. What they decided to do, because it made it so obvious where to start, they concentrated all their resources on that biggest opportunity. Their focus was on getting a lift, but also learning from that, gaining a learning. So really just trying to test their way in, try small, and then see where they could go from there. So what they did is really, here's just the sort of two steps. So on the left is the email, and when you clicked on it, they used a browser agent to detect whether someone was on a traditional desktop or laptop or whether they're on an iPhone. And they split that traffic. So just to look a little closer, and you'll be able to get the slides. I think they've already been posted to the SlideShare account, Marketing Sherpas, if you want to grab them there. And you can kind of dig into the creative a bit. This is the actual email that went out, so it's the same regardless of your device. And then when you click through, this is the standard landing page. So this is what was displayed on a traditional computer. And you can tell that would not be optimal really on a phone. It's quite small, the two columns, and this is just the top section, and then the lower section as well, which has a pretty detailed form. I mean, forms on phones are tough for sure, especially when there's small fields you have to pinch to get in there. So what they did is I mentioned it, pilot seems like a pretty big word for this, and it's true. This was the pilot. They did a single landing page, so basic, just a simple logo, a line, a sentence of copy, the form fields arranged vertically, easy to get at, and then a button to send, and that was really it. This was one developer for a few hours. They were able to steal him, get the browser agent set up, and this was the mobile strategy. It wasn't that complicated, but it was their way to kind of start and test their way in, so it isn't that daunting. And next, we're going to dig into kind of how they analyzed and reported results quickly.
Yeah, but first, when Pamela was talking about some of that technology to make this possible, because I'm sure that's one of your questions, what is the technology behind this? It's called responsive design, and our sponsor, Blue Hornet, has a free white paper right here that you can learn more about responsive design. Blue Hornet, if you're not familiar with them, they're an email service provider that specializes in helping companies include mobile optimized email as part of an end-to-end mobile marketing strategy. And like I said, today they're offering all of our webinar attendees free access to this very relevant resource, Blue Hornet's responsive design white paper. This white paper is going to give you detailed instructions on how to optimize your emails for mobile device users. And it also even includes examples of working HTML code you yourself can steal. If you don't have that developer you can use. So you can visit bluehornet.com/MSRD for the white paper, as well as a resource center filled with mobile email marketing info. Again, thanks to all the smart folks at Blue Hornet for making this webinar
thank you,
possible.
Blue Hornet.
At Email Summit, I interviewed Manny Jew from Blue Hornet, one of our marketing research and action, and he was talking about how important it is to tie revenue to mobile. So when you're looking at some of these pilots that Ritz-Carlton was doing, and that's why I love the pilot they did, it's a great chance to show something works at a small level, so then you can show that your business leaders, this can generate revenue, and you can get that bigger budget to get some help with responsive design and some of these tough technologies. Also, we talked about our mobile marketing benchmark report. Pamela and the kind folks in marketing are giving you $100 additional savings if you order it using the promo code you'll see on that screen. You can go to mechlabs.com/mobile. And I'm sure we're going to be tweeting that out through the hashtag Sherpa webinar. But with that, Pamela, tell us more about step 3, analyzing and reporting results quickly.
Yeah, this is really key. Like we say with a pilot, it's usually a little test sample. Let's see what happens. Let's try something small, especially when you're limited on your resources or don't quite have the confidence of your leadership that it's the right way to go. So really, I'm not going to dig right into the results yet, but it was definitely promising metrics. They saw people were engaging, this audience was experiencing and converting through their iPhones particularly. And just to be clear, the conversion was a lead, asking for more information, filling out a form. So that was really how they were measuring it. And really they were able to, from that small step, to run it for a few weeks, see how it went, they were able to gain the leadership confidence and continue their next step, which is phase 2. So it's just getting a little win, getting a lift, learning from it, getting on the priority list so that you can proceed. So really easy way to do that. And that brings us right into step 4, which is really the core of that. So it's about how you enhance it from there. This is just to show the path of exactly how it worked. So again, the email went out. It detected whether you went to the standard platform or the iPhone platform. And this is the expansion. They not only had a landing page, but you could either request more information, or you could actually, like I mentioned, it's a very experiential channel, industry, so you could actually view the images. So that was sort of the next level. So to go through kind of each level of creative one by one, that's the enhanced campaign. This is the email that went out. They'll learn more as the call to action. Here's the standard landing page, which is, again, very detailed, great experience if you're on a traditional screen, with the form down below, again, requesting information. And then here's the mobile version. So very simple. They actually tweaked the little headline there to be focused more on a benefit, which is the complimentary nights in Vail, with a little bit more detail. As I mentioned, they could either request information, in which case they brought them right to the form, which is that lead generation aspect.
And that mobile optimized landing page is so important when you're talking about mobile email. So when we were at Email Summit, one of my case studies, I happened to have a mobile panel, and REI, which is a big retailer if you're not familiar with them, they were going through the same thing. They were engaging responsive design. They were sending mobile emails. And so I asked her what was one of her biggest challenges, one of her biggest lessons learned. So she had this great mobile email. She was so excited. And then she sent it to a page with 200 products on it. And so that's where she had to really learn. Sometimes marketers struggle with this because you might be in charge of email, but you might not be able to control the landing page. So when you're looking to launch a campaign like this, it's so important to look at every person it touches and make sure you clearly communicate with them.
Yeah, and it is the experience, and it is kind of putting yourself in your user's shoes. I know in this particular case, the team discovered how terrible the experience was just by being excited about an email campaign and looking at it on their phones as it went out, and then saw how awful it was when they clicked through, tried to fill out a form, anything else. So we've all been there. I mean, I wouldn't say there's some that are really great at doing, and there's a lot of other resources available on marketingsherpa.com. There's some great mobile there, other case studies. But this particular case, just starting small and getting this form, and then expanding from here. So this was the one option, like I mentioned, the iPhone form. And then the additional piece was this View Images Gallery. And this is Vail, so it was related to that same message they'd seen previously. And again, just that experiential level. So it's visual, and it's, you can picture somebody being on their phone in an airport, one of these users, or waiting to pick up the kids in the car. And you can imagine it's not that nice out, or you're exhausted from traveling. How much better would it be to be in Vail right now? So really just connecting with their audience, where they are, how they're using their technology, and delivering it in a way that just works for them.
So before we move on to the results, I just want to take one more time to go through those slides once again, because it's so key. So they started with that mobile email, and something important you'll notice in this mobile email, there's not much space. There's a very limited amount of what they can put here. So that's why some factors, it's so important to understand what your key value proposition is, what key messages you want to get across, and also be able to communicate with everybody else in the organization. Because the challenge that we see in email, and I'm sure many of you marketers face it, is everyone wants to get in on that email, right? Mm-hmm. So either they want you to send more emails, or they just want to put whatever they have in that email. So this is especially a challenge if you have multiple product lines, multiple product managers. So it starts at the beginning when you're designing these mobile-friendly emails to sit down with everybody, all the key product managers, anyone who might be involved in your email marketing program, indirectly or directly, and let them know how you're trying to streamline and to focus those messages. Because on that little iPhone screen we're seeing here, or for any mobile device, putting in lots of different stuff isn't really going to work. And then secondly, making sure that, as Pamela talked about, that end-to-end process just works for the customer. So the customer doesn't care about what your org chart looks like. They don't care if somebody else is in charge of the landing page and you're only in charge of the email. All they know is once you get that click, once you've earned that click, you don't want to lose it by having a landing page that is not optimized for a mobile device. And lastly, it's so great how the Ritz-Carlton Destination Club was able to use this interface and this device for something that works for them. So this is very, very visual, and that works great for the Ritz-Carlton Destination Club. So we're not saying this is necessarily the exact way to do it for everyone. If you're a B2B company, this might be more information focused. It might be a video of a demo or something like that.
Yep.
So really just finding what value there is for you.
Yeah, in finance, banking, perhaps a little calculator embedded in there instead. There's plenty you can do because this is the landing page. And there's a question we've got here from Sarah who asked what it means to have a mobile optimized email, which really is just looking at your email through mobile and seeing what it looks like on the screen for your users and optimizing it for that channel. So that experience. So somebody sitting there at the phone, you know, how many times have you landed on, you know, an email and had to either shrink it or grow it? And then the whole, like Dan mentioned, the whole process all the way through. So reading the email, seeing it clearly, and then having the images show for you, or having no images. A lot of people go that way. And then when you click through, what do you see on the landing page? So if you're trying to direct them to a form to fill out, or like Dan mentioned, the REI example, in which it's a huge catalog of products that it's very difficult to scroll through, a little bit more of mobile optimized, easier to read, easier to interact with. So.
Yeah, and Sarah, Pamela's going to have a few resources at the end of this deck that might be helpful, but there's really many different levels to do that, right? So at the high level, a mobile optimized email, as Pamela said, is something someone can read well on a device. In this case, Ritz-Carlton Destination Club, and like our sponsor, Blue Hornet, with their free white paper, you can use digital tools like responsive design to be able to do that. But if you don't have those tools, again, when we talk about a pilot, find ways to look at these principles and communicate these principles to your organization. So for example, if you don't have the tools for responsive design, you can do something called mobile first design. So look at your emails and how can it be more friendly to a mobile device. So one way, it's funny, me and Pamela were just at Email Summit and we went around and we were helping people optimize their emails. And you know, some marketers were almost embarrassed when they talk about all of the stuff that's in their email. So we went, I particularly remember one about coin selling, and you go and you just see all the many different things in there, and you just have to ask them, so what are you trying to do with this email? And so for mobile devices, if you simplified your email message, right, not only is that going to help whoever receives your email, right, through desktop, through whatever, that's also going to help those mobile users. And when you're able to then show, hey, this is working, by simplifying our email messages, we're getting more click-through from mobile devices, then that's also, again, another way to show to your business leaders, hey, this works. We can get revenue from it. Let's look at other ways we can invest in technology. Because if you don't have the technology, I don't want you to feel like there's nothing we can do.
No, absolutely. And the resources, like this is such a great example. I love it because it was simply one form. That was a very simple piece of code that detected within the browser if it was, where do I send it? I send it to this page, which is really just a website that is very large. I mean, I'm sure you can go to this mobile site through just a regular browser and see just the experience, obviously completely different, but it isn't complicated. And I will show some resources at the end, and there are plenty of things like the great white paper from Blue Hornet, which I can see that Sarah actually already downloaded. So way to go, Sarah. Thanks for letting us know. And I just saw another question come through I thought I addressed from Dana. She asked if tablet users saw the standard view or mobile optimized version. Again, because they were so limited with the resources in the beginning, they did focus only on the iPhone. So if someone came in from a tablet, they would see the traditional landing page that you would on a desktop. But in the next step, after I show you some results, you can see how the iPad started to come in as a major traffic driver. Again, based on your audience, this audience is affluent and early adopters, so they came onto the iPad, and as that started growing as a channel coming into their email, they did create versions for that. So.
And that to me is a key takeaway from this case study. I mean, if you're out there, if you're struggling, you're saying, I don't have the resources, I don't know how to get going with mobile email marketing, I know I have to do it. Hey, look, the Ritz-Carlton Destination Club, they were struggling too, and they made this small pilot happen. And so, you know, a key takeaway, they only optimized for iPhone because they saw iPhone was 90% of their traffic. So we live in a multi-device world. It would be great to be able to optimize for Android and iPad and iPhone and every possible flavor that someone could visit your site with. But start at the top. Look at your analytics and see where are you getting the most traffic from.
And I'm certain there's ones that you can do for all mobile devices and very different levels. And there's some people are very sophisticated with this. But again, like Dan said, don't be daunted by the technology. Consider the process first. Think about where your audience is coming from. That 90%, that was of the 2.8% of the audience at the beginning of this project that was coming to their landing pages from email. So Yeah, let's talk about
Let's talk about the results.
Yeah.
How did this work out for Ritz-Carlton Destination Club?
Exactly. So we're going to dig right in here. So as I mentioned, when they first started, this is not results specifically, but this is the mobile traffic that was driven by email marketing. So in that first quarter, when they first started out, it was almost 3% of their audience. And so this is people that are reading email and reading their email on a mobile device and clicking through. So 2.8%, it grew to 5.5, 9.6, and you can imagine even since then it's grown exponentially because mobile is just, it's where people are at. They're always on their phones. So that really represented for them, a 243% increase. So it's an audience that increasingly they needed to invest in. And by starting small, they were already ahead of the curve. So by the time their audience was 9.6% coming from mobile, and their senior leaders are coming in and saying, what are we doing for mobile? They already had a test plan in place and we're already starting small. Dana asked that great question about the iPad, or about tablets rather, and this was how their email traffic device share started breaking out as they went, because they did track this sort of quarter to quarter to understand the breakout of their particular audience. So in that first quarter, this was the results that I shared initially, which was the 90% of all their mobile traffic coming from iPhone. And then you can see that it really started splitting out. And this is always going to change. And again, it's about understanding your particular audience. But it made it clear, iPhone was still a huge proportion, but it made them rethink sort of their next steps. So to look at their aggregate of their five pilot campaigns, which made up sort of these results, I showed you two elements of that. Of that, 8% of all landing page traffic went to the iPhone page. So this is people that are clicking on the email on the iPhone, which is a good portion. And from that, all form completions, this is all platforms, 15% came from the iPhone. What this is really telling us is it's converting at a higher rate. So those iPhone users are converting, taking more of their fair share of conversions. So not only that, but we found that when it came down to it, the iPhone campaign, those on iPhones were converting. So that was, again, it's lead capture, lead generation. 7% were filling out the form or following up versus 5%, which is what their baseline, all other platforms were coming across. So.
Sorry to interrupt. I think that's really a key data point because as we saw in the beginning, when you, again, try to make that case for mobile email marketing, I think what was it, 2.8% of Ritz-Carlton Destination Club overall traffic was coming from a mobile device, I think.
Yes.
And but what we've seen other marketers find in case studies is while sometimes that's a small amount of traffic, that can be a very lucrative amount of traffic. The people that are coming from mobile devices, they tend to be, for example, wealthier, and you tend to have a better chance of a higher conversion rate with them. So while it's important to see how much of your traffic is currently coming from mobile to see if it's worth optimizing for mobile email, it's also important to consider that might be a different segment than the current segment that's coming from desktops. Obviously, at a very basic level, if you're a consumer product company, someone who can just afford an iPhone and how much you have to pay every week. I think partly because we had a comment here from Mark. He said, Bell is the only carrier in Canada. So I'm going to blame the carriers for that. I guess they have this big monopoly. But again, just due to the expense, you can assume that that's an audience that can spend a lot more for your product. So.
Yeah, apologies to our friends at TELUS and Rogers for that one. So yes, and I think one of the key things, like Dan mentioned, you got to think about where these people are too. Again, put yourself in your customer's shoes. If I'm on an iPhone and I'm looking at a page, it's a different experience than being on a computer. When I'm on a computer, I probably have 5 or 6 different tabs open. I'm looking through different things. I've got my email. I'm responding to emails. If I'm on my iPhone, like maybe I'm in an airport, I'm pretty focused. It's the one thing on my screen at that moment. And you can be a little bit more direct in the messaging. As you saw, the landing page for the traditional platform was a lot of detail, a lot of sales copy. The landing page for especially that initial pilot was, here's a form, ask for more information. So it was extremely direct. And I saw Dimitri just asked us, do we have the slides for download? And they are available on SlideShare, and I'm sure that we'll tweet out that link as well. So moving on, just to regroup on so after that 40%, I mean, that's really just the relative difference between the baseline and the iPhone campaign, the rate at which they converted. And it will be different for everyone, and we don't have the information on the revenue to share with you on this one, but really the story here is it was such a minor thing. It was just that one page, that few hours by that one developer, and they were able to really grow it, get a good news story, and get more investment for their mobile going forward. And I'll share with you a little bit. First, I'll show again those 4 key steps, and this can be used for more than just mobile. Whether you can take the word out mobile there and put in something else. And again, if you understand your audience, come at it from a customer-centric point of view. Start small, report quickly, analyze quickly, and then build back and enhance based on what you're getting from those real results from your audience. So as I mentioned, they did build on this. They sort of worked into a phase 3. They, built on, in this particular case, with their hospitality, it's focused on destination and package offerings. So they're able to showcase multiple versions, not just here's a veil, that focused on a particular person. They're able to optimize media gallery with captions, toggling. Again, just every time reiterating, adding a little bit more, trying something else, testing your traffic, see what they're interested in. And then, like Dana asked about, the tablet-specific version of the desktop landing page version. So just to look a little bit, here's just some preliminary. They actually even have the lorem ipsum still in them. But the difference here is, again, the landing page. This is where you click through from the email, a little bit more intro copy, explore destinations as an option, view the photo gallery, which is enhanced over the next version, and then, again, still requesting the information, that really direct call to action. So just to kind of dig in so you can see the creative that they did launch, the destination list landing page, this was based on the program marketed to this person based on their profile and what their interests may be. They could see package offers and destination detail, that sort of thing. The other step that they could click on with the photo gallery landing page is an enhanced gallery. They could toggle between images. Again, it's going to apply to your audience, to your product, your approach. But just plussing it each time. This time they had captions and toggling, so just minor little things. And then optimizing for iPad. So this was the next step, which was, again, the flash being an issue when there's an Apple device with the tablet, replacing it with static imagery, and enhancing the form to leverage the mobile function. So, the key thing here is, this seems pretty impressive, but they started with a single form. That was it. And what they've done is they've been able to really kind of create a high-profile priority with mobile, because it is growing and growing and growing. I mean, there's no question about that. That's definitely intuitive. So they got, success, increased traffic in mobile, like we talked about, increased conversion rates. They got, attention and support. This team was a leader in the organization. That's really a key thing too. I'm inspired by this team. It's marketers kind of saying, you know what, this isn't right. How can I do this? Tackling it in really small ways and building something bigger than that. So they plan to enhance, doing other channels, applying the same approach for PPC, for social, and so on. So really, really great story here. So yeah, as Dan mentioned, there's some resources that we just wanted to share, a few that I know that the team used. So particular, because this was an Apple specific, there's tons of developer resources. So you can kind of grab a developer from your IT team and say, hey, what can we do here? I know they relied heavily on the resources that are available free. And obviously it's of benefit to the platforms that sites were optimized for the various different devices. And of course, Android and BlackBerry and so on have the same thing. And there's plenty of sites out there, mobile best practices. MarketingSherpa.com has plenty of great case studies, more on mobile. And of course, the Mobile Marketing Benchmark Report, which...
Yeah, so thanks for coming and presenting this case study. I got to say, again, the biggest takeaways for me as I listen, if you're not mobile optimized yet, hey, it's a tough road. Even the Ritz-Carlton Destination Club had to start somewhere and to slowly build. So start somewhere, slowly build, look at a basic pilot. Don't just focus on technology, focus on mobile principles, what would work well for a mobile user. And then, again, as you get some proof points, as you get hopefully some nice results like this 243%, that's a great way to build a business case to get greater resources and to go from there. But any other final thoughts, Pamela?
No, I think this, and if you're struggling getting attention for mobile, there's plenty of great resources out there. Like, thanks again to Blue Hornet for that great white paper, and download this deck from SlideShare and kind of dig through it, spend some time with it, think how you can apply. That's our goal here, is really just to give you ideas, give you things that you can hopefully take, even if you're not, a huge group or feel like you have budget or, have the things necessary to really launch this, or a completely different kind of business in hospitality. It's about taking principles, being inspired by these marketers who are trying things and want to share their stories, and then ultimately building something and hopefully coming back and tell us about all your great success.
Absolutely. So those URLs again, bluehornet.com/MSRD for that responsive design white paper. You can download these slides right now to get a closer look at some of these really cool screenshots at slideshare.net/marketingsherpa. Thank you for joining us. There's a survey at the end of this. Please fill it out. It will help us improve this webinar to serve you better. Thank you.
Thanks.